Now, here's your Farm and Ranch Report from the Montana Ag Network.
Hello everyone, it's time for our Farm and Ranch News. As the weather warms this spring, we have seen the impacts that melting ice and flooding has had on the state. Most recently, the Yellowstone River has been a cause for concern for eastern Montana residents and ranchers. Rancher Tim Gibbs shared with us an on-the-ground and bird's-eye view of an ice jam south of Glendive from this past weekend and the impact it's had on his ranch.
The flood this year we didn't think it was going to be much, but it actually got to be a lot more. We were checking it every 2 hours on Friday night here at the ranch. And at 6 o'clock, I seen it was starting to move there. So we went down and made sure no cows went back down there against the trees. And it was going out here when it went down about 4 or 5 miles and jammed. Well, then about an hour later there around probably 7:30, then here comes a huge jam and picked the river up into the 2 to 3 feet. And just kind of started marching towards Glendive. Out here, you don't get the full, if you've never watched Yellowstone go out, you don't get the full effect of it until you're standing on the bank. And when the ground is shaking, when these ice chunks are hitting and trying to break up and go through, it's really something.
While the water and ice is having an impact on area ranchers, farmers, and citizens, Tim Gibbs says this is not the worst he has seen the Yellowstone River in the springtime.
So what it does, it affects our calving. It's just another worry that you go through because in 94, I think it rose over about 23 feet here. That got to be 12 feet deep in my mom and dad's house and 3.5 feet deep in our shops. So you never know where that river's going to jam, and you never know how high it's going to get to push the jam on through. And so, but this year it wasn't very impactful. It's going to take us, half a day to rebuild fence. But we have to lock cows away from the river right now, and so we lose all of our shelter and rely more on windbreaks and stuff like that.
Farmers and ranchers know all too well that weather can be a blessing and a curse.
The Yellowstone to us, it's such a blessing because we rely on it for irrigation and recreation, I guess. It gets to be a curse here from anywhere from a day to a week, if it stays jammed up or something, But the Yellowstone is a blessing, the lifeblood of eastern Montana, And so you take that in stride with what if you want to live along the river, you take it in stride.
Gibbs said that the ice was moving around 12 miles an hour this past weekend and the floodwaters were around 10 feet high at his ranch. Don't go away, we'll have more coming up next. Returning back today, USDA is seeking nominations for 4 vacancies to serve on the American Lamb Board starting in the year 2020. They're looking for a producer with less than 100 lambs, a producer with more than 500 lambs, an at-large feeder, and a first handler. The American Lamb Board, established back in 2002, is a national promotion, research, and information organization whose purpose is to increase awareness and demand for American lamb and increase the value of American lamb for all segments of the industry. The board is appointed by the Secretary of Agriculture and, of course, represents all sectors of the industry. The 13-member board represents the 6 producer end of things, 3 feeders, 1 seed stock producer, and 3 first handlers. Nominations for the American Lamb Board are due May 1st, 2019. Information can be found on USDA's website. That will do it for today.